roll call in a moment here. Stand by, please. Okay. Okay, let's roll call here. I'm just going to reset the order. Councillor Banga.
Present, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Cartmel.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. Councillor Katarina.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. Councillor Zadek.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Essinger.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. Councillor Hamilton.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. Councillor Henderson.
I am here.
Thank you. Councillor Knack.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon. Councillor McKean.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you. Councillor Nicol.
Good afternoon.
Councillor Paquette.
Good afternoon.
Councillor Walters, I think, had let us know he was indisposed today. So 12 is pretty good, though, so that's plenty to get started. A couple of agenda management things in a moment, but I'm going to go to Councillor Banga for a brief protocol item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The month of April has been proclaimed as Sikh Heritage Month by Legislature of Alberta. April was especially chosen given its importance for Sikhs, and as it is in April that Sikh Canadians celebrate Vaisakhi on April 13th, that is today, which marks the formalization of the Khalsa and the Sikh Articles of Faith, one of the holiest days of Sikh faith. Khalsa Day is also an opportunity to remember, to celebrate, to educate our future generations and society at large about Sikh Canadians and the important role that they play in communities across Canada and like ours. The Sikh religion is based in part on the belief in the equality of all humanity and teaches us that we are all one and we must strive to achieve social justice for all. The celebration of Vaisakhi includes performing acts of selfless service. Edmonton Sikh community can be seen providing seva, selfless service, in times of need. Thank you, Mr. Mayor Iveson and Council for proclaiming today Khalsa Day. And along with this, I also want to acknowledge that today is also the start of Ramadan and Navratri. Navratri is the Hindu faith tradition, and three of the biggest faiths will be celebrating and praying together. providing a wonderful opportunity for unity and solidarity. With that, happy Vaisakhi, happy Ramadan, and happy Navaratri. Thank you.
Well, namaste, namaskar, Sat Sri Akal, Ramadan Mubarak, and Wahi Guru Ji Ka Khalsa, Wahi Guru Ji Ki Fateh. Councillor Banga, thank you.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
I'm out of practice on that one. Thank you. Okay, so on an agenda management basis, a couple of things. One, the appointments to ARB, the mandatory training is actually right away, and so we can't let that one roll over, so I'm flagging that to be brought forward for voting purposes so we can get it done. I think there's division on that requested, but not debate, if I recall correctly from the selection.
The reason we selected this one for debate, you selected this one for debate is we needed to amend the bylaw to expand it. And so we couldn't.
Have we done that yet?
We did.
Okay.
We did approve the bylaw, but we didn't get a chance to approve the appointment recommendations.
Okay, so, right, thank you for reminding me. It's been a long week. So in a moment, I'll ask for that to be brought forward. The other thing to flag is that 6.4, we received an email reply from the clerks with the additional information that may answer the referral, in which case we could receive it for information. However, if there are further questions based on the email, then that would be good to know. Okay, so we've got some choices on that one. So I'm just flagging that, not suggesting we need to deal with that right off the top. So I will ask for a motion to bring 9.9 forward for decision.
So moved.
I think I got
Second.
Councillor Cartmel, seconded by Councillor Zadek there. So is consent okay, or do you want to vote for these ones?
Let me see if everybody's in the meeting.
Sure,
And just friendly
good-
reminder, it's
good call.
April 6th.
Right, we got to go back to the April 6th. I also need to get in the right meeting. So we'll call the vote.
Councillor Banga?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Katarina?
Yes, for me as well.
Thank you. Councillor Hamilton? Councillor Hamilton?
Yes.
Thank you. And Councillor Paquette? Councillor Paquette, are you in favor?
Yeah, I am a yes. Even despite your warning, I was in the wrong meeting to vote. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 12 votes.
Display the vote, please. And that's carried. Okay, so that brings 9.9 forward. Unless there's a need to go in private to discuss, I would ask for a motion from one of the executive committee members present to make these appointments based on our good work at committee.
So moved.
A little biased, of course, as chair. Thank you, Councillor Hamilton. That's before us. I'll second that recommendation. Is there any debate? Not seeing any. Please vote on the ARB appointments.
Sorry, Councillor Zadek?
Yes.
Thank you. And Councillor Katarina?
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. We have 12 votes.
Display the vote. Carried. Now, we had made 9.2 and 9.3 second and third item time specific last Friday, but didn't get to them. So they are, I think strictly speaking, in the queue at this point next. And then I believe the only other things left on the agenda are 8.2 and 8.3. And we got the afternoon. So I think we should be able to get through all of that. We can, yeah, 9.2 will probably be fairly quick, and 9.3 won't be hugely long. So I would suggest we get those done, because we do need 9.2 done today for sure.
I'll move to go in private then.
And then we'll still have time, I think, for the motions pending when we get into it. So Councillor Henderson has moved that we go in private to, under section 21 and 24, and for 9.2, and 16, disclosure harmful to business interests of a third party, 24, advice from officials, 25, disclosure harmful to economic and other interests of a public body, and 27, privileged information for 9.3, and seconded by Councillor Cartmell. So please vote.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Councillor Katarina. We have all the votes, Mr. Mayor.
Display the vote. Carried. So we'll just need to give clerks a moment to Well, we'll give you a couple moments. You gotta open the doors again, right? And then we'll do a roll call. How about that?
I don't get this opening the doors thing. When was the last time we actually saw anybody in here?
We are good to go, Mr. Murphy.
Okay, let's roll call, just to make sure we've got everyone back. I'll start this time with Councillor Cartmel, who I can see with my own eyes.
I'm here.
Yes, Councillor Katarina,
Yeah, I'm here.
Councillor Zadek,
Here.
Councillor Essinger,
Present.
Councillor Hamilton,
Present.
Councillor Henderson.
Mostly present.
I feel I'm picking up what you're putting down. Councillor Knack,
Fully present.
Councillor McKean,
Present.
Councillor Nickel,
Yep.
Councillor Paquette,
The present is a gift.
Councillor Walters. Not here yet, though he did text me that he's going to be able to join us in a bit, so we'll look for him to join. And Councillor Banga, last but not least.
Still here.
Great. Okay, needs some motions arising from the private items. Councillor Hamilton, did you want to move the recommendation for 9.2, the regional naming initiative?
Yes, I'll move that.
Just for clarity, it's option 1 and attachment 4.
Second.
And seconded by Councillor Paquette. Okay, referencing option 1 and attachment 4. And that report, including that attachment, be kept in private, subject to the aforementioned sections 21 and 24 of FOIP. Okay, so that's before us now. Please vote.
I'm a verbal yes. My computer's just gone down here, so.
Thank you. All the votes, Mr.
Display the vote. Carried. And Councillor Cartmel on 9.3.
Thank you. I will move that the negotiation approach update verbal report be received for information and that report be kept private subject to section 16, disclosure harmful to business interests of a third party, 24, advice from officials, and 25, disclosure harmful to economic and other interests of a public body, and 27, privileged information of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act.
Second.
I think Councillor Katarina will take that one. Please vote to receive long suffering. Please vote.
Councillor McKean. Thank you. And Councillor Zadek.
Yes. For Zadek.
We have all the votes, Mr. Murphy.
Display the vote. Carried. Okay, that deals with all the private items. So I think what's left is 8.2 and 8.3. Councillor Paquette on 8.2, if you want to make the motion.
Yes, thank you. Just pulling it up here. That as administration is considering the development of minimum emergency shelter standards and operating requirements that can be expected of shelter operators in order to better support clients and communities, that it be intentional with regard to mental health supports, freedom of religious expression, reconciliation efforts, LGBTQ2S+ human rights, and equity through the GBA plus lens for 1, shelters and housing, 2, intergovernmental advocacy, and 3, social development communications.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councillor McKean. Okay, go ahead and introduce the motion, Councillor Paquette.
Yeah, this is almost just like housekeeping, sort of paired with the motion we had, I believe it was last week. And the idea is just to be a little bit more upfront, provide clarity when it comes to these different sectors of folks that we're trying to help, because in naming them, we acknowledge them and put that lens in front of the work we do. It's not forgotten, and it also communicates clearly to these groups and to the public that these are things that we take seriously and prioritize as we move forward in our helping efforts.
Thank you. Any questions? Anyone wishing to speak?
I'll speak. Just trying to log on.
Go ahead, Councillor Zadig.
Yeah, just fully support this. I think sometimes we need to spell it out clearly. Well, I'm not too worried that this work wouldn't have been done anyways. I appreciate the councillor's effort bringing this forward to be deliberate about it, and I think it's great. So full support.
Thank you. Councillor Katarina, I think, was trying to get on the board. Go ahead.
No, Mr. Mayor, I was just swatting flies.
Oh, okay. Anyone else wishing to speak? Councillor McKean, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. And I would also say that I think it's really important to draw lines, clear lines in the sand, and express our values, especially in regards to shelters within our city that have not lived up to these values expressed in this motion. I know that to be the case from advocates who have talked to me about the experiences of specific groups, be they Indigenous people and some of the encounters they've had at shelters, and LGBTQ folks, especially young folks, who've not been made to feel welcome at our shelter system and are living homeless, living rough because of that. So I fully support this and hope others will too. Thank you.
I think Councillor Cartmel is next in line in the room here, so I'll pass him the chair just for a moment.
I have the chair.
So just speaking quickly to it, I think two things. One, in many of the engagements we've had and the lived experience we've heard from vulnerable people, particularly young people, who identify in the LGBTQ2S plus space or gender fluid in some way, that is a massive contributing factor to youth homelessness. And so not just accommodation for that, but understanding of that is critical, I think, in the shelter infrastructure. And so I appreciate the inclusion of that factor, which we've identified as a massive contributing factor to youth homelessness, which left undealt with becomes the chronic homelessness that we are now spending tremendous societal effort and resources to respond to. And I think we've talked extensively over the years and of late about addiction and mental health supports for people, and so I won't say more about that at the risk of repetition. But I will reflect a very strong memory I have that I've talked about before of going out on the homeless count a few years ago and talking to the very diverse group of people, including former soldiers whose trauma we have become more comfortable talking about as PTSD. I met child soldiers, refugees who were here who had been child soldiers, whose trauma I think is hard to fathom for Canadians, but is very real, and any accounts of it we've ever heard of you can understand with and identify. And then vastly overrepresented Indigenous population, twice as likely to live in poverty, 4 times as likely to go missing and murdered if female, and 10 times as likely to be homeless. And the stories of trauma in the residential schooling system, both direct and intergenerational, are also stories of trauma. And so I met different human beings from every corner of the globe, from every part of our society, who had deep, deep, deep trauma. And who would rather be on the street than in the place down the street from where they were, where they could get food and shelter. And so we have learned even a lot more about the gaps, and we've done a lot more, thanks to the pandemic, policy innovation and experimentation, and not all of it perfect, to try to understand what lower barrier and appropriate diversity of shelter supports for people from different communities and different experiences would look like. And I think there are a lot of learnings from the last decade of work on homelessness, the last year of work in the pandemic, and even from our more recent discussions around community safety and well-being, about the need to get this right. And so I too appreciate, for the benefit of our vulnerable population and for the benefit of people who serve our vulnerable population, that this is a very important message to send. And I remember it was, the debate was to do it as subsequent to the other discussion or separate here, and I'm glad it's here on its own to really flesh out those values, which I think this council's been fairly consistent on in our support for Housing First, and in our support for the 10-year plan and the sustained effort behind it, which has housed over 12,000 people, 1,300 of whom have attained housing since the beginning of the pandemic. And so I think that though we're not at the finish line of ending homelessness, it's good work, and these are some of the gaps, along with others that we've identified previously. But first and foremost, I said I wouldn't say anything about addictions and mental health, but I think following evidence-based practices with respect to supporting people experiencing addictions and mental health, rather than othering them or judging them, has allowed us to make progress here. And I hope that this is an opportunity for us to reinforce all of those commitments today. I'll take the chair back.
Turn the chair.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Councillor Paquette to close.
I will go with everything you just said.
Mr. Mayor, sorry about that.
Were you trying to click on, Councillor?
Yeah, I was, just for a few seconds. I just wanted to acknowledge and thank Jackie Ford for reaching out to CHU group, young people in our community that belong to this group, and providing some strategy or a roadmap for them to overcome the challenges they face in our shelter system, which leaves them sort of out for many, many reasons. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Councillor Caterina. Anyone else? Okay, well, I think Councillor Paquette had yielded, but thank you for bringing this forward, Councillor. Please vote.
Councillor Paquette?
Looks like my vote is submitting, but I am a yes.
Okay, Councillor Hamilton?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Esslinger?
Yes.
And Councillor Caterina?
Yes, for me as well.
Thank you. We're good to go.
Display the vote. And that's carried 12-0 with noting Councillor Walter's absence. Okay, next then is 8.3, bus network redesign implementation and delays. And before I go to Councillor Zadek for the motion, I have reflected at length as chair on whether this motion is in order. Given that Councillor Zadek voted against BNR previously, albeit more than a year ago thanks to COVID delays, but more to the point, because I gather irrevocable action such as assigning routes and shifts to transit operators for next month has already occurred. However, given the build-up to this and the public interest in this question, I think as chair it may be in the public interests to allow the motion onto the floor and some questions to be asked rather than the rules used to block such a discussion from even happening. However, I need to signal that if there is a point of order questioning those points, I will be forced to rule on it. And so if that comes, we will have to deal with it as an assembly. And that is a valid question, which I will need the Assembly's assistance with interpreting. But I'm going to err on the side of having the discussion at this point. So at this point, I will then go to, so that at least we can get some of those facts on the table, rather than shut down debate prematurely. So, with that caveat, I will go to Councillor Zadek for the motion.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to make this. So the motion is that the bus network redesign implementation be delayed, subject to further consultation with those most impacted by the route changes, with consideration for adjusting the proposed routes.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Nicol. Okay, so go ahead and introduce the motion, Councillor Zadek.
Thanks, and I appreciate everyone's time here today. So I get that many councillors are excited about this redesign, especially if you represent one of the areas that's going to net benefit from it. And yes, many of our routes need modernization. But so I made this motion here, the notice of it, on March 26th. I believe that the approach of better late than never applies here. I get that the timing's not ideal, and I'll get into reasons why I'm bringing this up now. But I do feel it's part of my duty to allow this assembly to reconsider the rollout, and this is what we're talking about, the rollout of the BNR, given what we know now. So what do we know now? Well, there's two new important considerations that I would like to debate. First is that we're hearing from folks using the app that the walk times are much longer than originally promised, and therefore their total commute times. And that's not what our initial engagement focused on. The second gap is the on-demand service. There's areas in the city where the gap is so large you could drive a bus through it. Previously, I stated my displeasure with the BNR, and I was on the losing side of that. So my motion here isn't trying to revisit the BNR outright. I'm just trying to make it better. But perhaps with more engagement from those most impacted, we can get it right. like realizing that there is no bus service on 82nd Street, a principal thoroughfare with lots of apartments, grocery stores, and other amenities located on it. So prior to being here today, I asked administration to explain why there is no on-demand service for the whole north side of Edmonton. And I was told that it didn't meet the eligibility criteria. So that's why I'm fighting here politically, because I have no other choice. And after this vote today, I'll leave it alone. But we were told that the BNR as a rollout as a program could not be done as a pilot project, yet we were doing the on-demand system as a pilot project. These two elements are at odds with each other, yet the promise on-demand system served as justification for the BNR rollout citywide initially. And it's a 2-year pilot program. So waiting 2 years with no on-demand service is way too long to wait and simply not fair as far as I'm concerned. And we will lose ridership and inconvenience those that have no other choice but to take the bus. So in my opinion, and as a satisfactory resolution to this, could emerge out of this debate that the BNR could only be rolled out to parts of the city where there's an on-demand system in place, and that we keep existing bus routes as they are in place with no on-demand service until such time as we have an equitable distribution. I think this is a half measure, and it's up to this council now to do it right if you're convinced with my arguments. And I'll leave it at that. Happy to take questions, and I hope people really do understand where I'm coming from. I'm not trying to throw a wrench in a bunch of gears here for the purpose of just doing that. I'm really trying to represent the people that elected me. That's all.
Thank you. Councillor Paquette?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I may have a potential subsequent motion to this. I'm just wondering if I should put that on the floor now or wait for folks to have their debate.
Well, if it's not an amendment to this per se, then it would not be in order to consider it right now. But I hear you that you may have, if this passes, a subsequent. If it doesn't, but there's still something that needs to be followed up, it may need to be noticed. It depends a little bit. I had not a circular conversation with the clerk. The conversation was fine. The circular logic of whether you can have a subsequent motion to something, to a notice of motion, we're trying to figure out right now. So, but I hear you that there may be some additional work to do. So we'll figure out some way to accommodate that. But
yeah, I think it would satisfy. I mean, it wouldn't do everything that this motion does, but it might satisfy some of the concerns. So I don't know. I'll send it to you and you can sort of give me some advice if that's okay.
Sure, throw it in the chat.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Paquette. Councillor Knack?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And so I had a few questions related to the plan for engagement after this takes effect, because I appreciate what Councillor Zadek's talking about and wanting to make sure people have an opportunity to see continued evolution. This is not a fixed service that would never change. The hope is that we're not going to wait another 27 years to make a massive change, but that will continue to evolve. So I guess, this motion asks for us to delay implementation to do engagement, but let's assume we continue as planned. How did you plan to engage people as we continued forward on this? And how do you envision using that to inform potential further changes?
Is that a question to me, Councillor?
No, I'm going to ask administration on that.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, though. Thanks.
No, go ahead, Sarah.
Great. Okay. Yes. Thank you, Councillor, for the question. Of course, the bus network, as you said, is not fixed in time, and we do not want to wait another 20 years before, and then need to do this type of major revamp. And we do intend to review it regularly and bring recommendations back for how we adjust the network. In terms of engaging citizens, we will have ongoing feedback through our feedback tools that we have in place for the launch. And if we're considering specific adjustments for specific areas, we would do more focused engagement with those neighborhoods. For example, workshops, surveys, et cetera, for those neighborhoods.
Okay. And I would expect that as Smart Fare begins to be implemented, that will also help inform future changes, because we'll have more firm data around where people are getting on, where they're getting off, if they're transferring, and we can actually learn where truly people are going, which we don't have that information at this stage.
Absolutely. We do have good information of how many people get on and off the bus and the times the buses, how if they're early or late. But in terms of individuals and where they're traveling, the smart fare system will really revolutionize our data in that.
Okay. I guess the other question, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because I know members of council probably have read up on all the engagement, and I talked about this with the mover as well, but maybe it is worth just taking a few moments to talk about the engagement that actually led up to where we're at today. My understanding is that the amount of people who got engaged in the bus network redesign was more than any other city initiative that we've ever done engagement on, in the tens of thousands of people. We weren't just doing town halls like you would typically see from the city in the past. You were out at festivals, events, parking lots, libraries, rec centers. You tried to reach out to everyone, both existing riders and people who don't ride. So can you, I've got 2 minutes left, so maybe I'll just turn it over to you if you want to take some time talking about what went into where we're at today.
Yes, thank you for that question. So this has been a long journey of a lot of public engagement. And as you mentioned, Councillor Knack, there has been extensive engagement over the last 3 years, starting really with the transit strategy, where we had over 20,000 Edmontonians provided input to build the strategy. And the last phase of the 3 phases we did for the transit strategy was all about trade-off. And we had over 10,000 citizens provided input on the trade-offs, including a trade-off of walking distance versus frequency. And that built the principles of the transit strategy. And then specifically for the bus network redesign, we did 2 big phases of public engagement in 2018. The first round was on the draft, and we had 2 workshops in every ward in the city, as well as many coffee chats with various community organizations and other community conversations, online survey, focus groups, internal consultation. So it was a very extensive process. And then in the fall, we brought back our second draft, final draft. And we actually changed 20% of the draft network based on what we heard from citizens. If it meant the principles of the transit strategy and what we understood we were aiming to achieve from those principles, we did adjust. And in those 2 phases, we had 14,000 Edmontonians participated. And then in 2019, we did engagement on the on-demand transit, and that consultation was focused on the candidate neighborhoods that were considered to meet the guidelines for where we would consider on-demand transit, namely the neighborhoods outside of that first last kilometer. So very extensive engagement, and I don't like to say that we're the biggest because don't mean to compete with other city projects, but it's certainly among the biggest engagements the city has ever done.
Okay, I'm out of time, but we'll have a few more questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Henderson?
Well, maybe just to follow up on that, because my memory is we've been at this, the engagement cost us, my memory is it's in the millions of dollars we spent on the engagement for this. It's been a 5-year process, correct?
Yes, if we go back to 2015 when we started on the transit strategy, and I don't have the exact number of how much we spent, but it's been...
I'm remembering passing the budget and blanching at the time, but I think it was worth doing. Because I think the real question here is, if we went back in and did more engagement, what are we going to hear that we haven't already heard? I mean, my experience is we've already, we knew we couldn't make everybody happy. But we did hear a great deal between the first draft and the second draft and made significant changes to the routes based on that, correct?
Yes, exactly, yes.
So my thinking is we can keep on doing engagement until the cows come home, but we're going to keep on hearing the same things and we're going to have the same trade-offs. And we'll end up in the same place. I mean, part of the problem with this is we always knew that there are people today who will probably have way better service than they did, and there are going to be some people who have worse service than they did. That's in the nature of making this kind of change. There's no way to make it better for everybody, I don't think, is there? Unless we substantially increase the amount of service we're prepared to provide.
I think that was always the premise of this, was the trade-off conversation. We're working within our existing budget and number of vehicles and operators, and so can't keep the same walking distance and improve frequencies without adding more resources.
So there's no, and I'd love to see us put more resources in, but the point has always been, let's build that on the bones of a new system, which is actually for this city rather than the city of 30 years ago, correct?
Exactly, yeah.
And that's the work that will be ongoing, is understanding what the new system does and then reacting and responding to improving it, correct? That's what
Yeah, the
happens
beauty,
next.
yes, the beauty of the bus network is it can evolve over time as long as we have the right principles for what we're trying to achieve from City Council.
And I'm wondering, doing a hybrid system can't work for that reason because this is about moving resources around. So you can't leave one set of routes in place in one place and add the increased routes or changed routes in another place. We wouldn't have, we could only do that if we had more, if we were prepared to put in significantly more service, correct?
Correct. We had discussed a phased implementation initially when the transit strategy was approved, but the discussion and direction at City Council for that time was to implement the full network at once, and in many ways that leads to a more consistent network citywide.
And then one other thing is, I'm thinking, ironically, if you're going to change a system, it's probably better to change it in a time like this when there's less demand on it than waiting for demand to increase. So, the fact that our ridership is down as much as it is right now will mean that the bumps, there will inevitably be bumps, you can't make a change like this without there being bumps, probably will be less problematic. There may be a silver lining in the COVID situation right now, as it's given us a chance to introduce the new system and work out the kinks at a time when it's going to be less catastrophic if we have to make changes, correct?
Absolutely. I think we can help our current customers, the folks who are riding now, adjust to the current network. And then as people return to transit, as we recover from the pandemic, we can help those customers learn and adapt to the new network as well. So it does allow us to phase it in many respects.
And at this point, I'm guessing, we're within weeks of doing this, correct? Rolling it back at this point would be catastrophic, if not impossible, I'm imagining.
Yes, it's 10 days. And we have quite a lot of public communications out in the public, including over 7,000 bus stops citywide that all have a date on them.
Great, thanks.
Councillor Essinger?
Thank you. I assume, and I just want to confirm, that you approach this to serve Edmontonians on an equitable basis so that there's service to all areas of the city.
Absolutely, we provided the same approach and the same philosophy to all areas. Of course, the road network is different in different parts of the city, so that might mean the routes look a bit different, but we apply the same service standards equitably throughout the city.
So we didn't purposely ignore the north or do limited service.
Absolutely not. We have designed the routes using the same standards for walking distance, providing more express routes to the north on certain corridors so that we can continue to provide rapid service. And I think, of course, in the future, improving transit to the north will be around implementing the mass transit network and some of the direction from the city plan, which helps to provide more infrastructure to the north.
And on the on-demand service, my understanding is that it's provided for communities that don't have access to buses within 600 meters. Is that correct, or do I misunderstand?
Yes, the on-demand service was always contemplated as a first last kilometer solution for areas that were beyond the 600-meter walking distance in the new service standards. Now, there may be small edges of neighborhoods that have just a few houses that are beyond that 600 meters, but we needed enough houses to provide service in a logical way to support one on-demand vehicle at least. So fortunately, I think in the north side, the north side is generally covered within 600 meters, and there were no neighborhoods that were beyond.
The only one I'm aware of is the industrial area in the northwest, that in Mistatim, that I'm aware
Yes.
The other question I have is, as we roll out after April 25th, are you still open to feedback or things that you may have not realized? And will you be making adjustments upon that feedback?
Absolutely. We are going to be collecting all of our hard data, the transit data on ridership and bus times, but also customer feedback. We have a feedback form on our website, which is one way we can collect it. But of course, we have other channels where we hear from customers. And we'll be using all of this to report back to City Council every 6 months on how the network is performing and adjustments we might make. We plan to do a full review as part of our annual service plan for next year, for 2022, and make adjustments based on once we have sufficient data from how people are using the system and their response.
So I understand the rationale for going now, but what I am hearing, the one concern that I have heard several times is for students, younger students trying to navigate to their schools before the end of the school year. What kind of supports do we have in place for some of those that are caught in that? It's a big change at the end of a school year.
Yes, absolutely. It is a challenging timeline for students in junior and senior high school who use transit service. We have been working really closely with Edmonton Public and Edmonton Catholic school boards to provide them a lot of information to share out through all of their various communication channels with parents and students. We've also been offering to attend the open houses at schools in the spring, but many of them have been virtual this spring. And then, launch week will be really critical for us, and we want to be able to be out there sharing information with customers and having, assisting customers who may have questions when they're out on the street. So we are still planning to do some face-to-face outreach, talking to all of our customers in launch week.
Will you continue to have school specials, or have they moved?
Yes, we do still have school specials in the new bus network. They're generally provided when we have regular bus routes that are overloaded, are too full in a neighborhood, and that's being caused by school trips. And so we add a school special to supplement the regular service.
Okay, those are all my questions for now.
Thank you. Councillor Banga?
Thank you. Couple questions in regards to first the implementation of this thing right now. I understand Southeast Valley Line is getting close to ready, or if not ready. Why do we, in the meantime, have it this new system going while we still are not quite sure about what the implications of Southeast Valley Line are going to be?
I think a lot of the bus service in the Southeast does provide service between the Southeast and downtown. And so actually by implementing the new bus route, we're ready for Valley Line to come. If we had both all of the current routes and the Valley Line open, we'd have actually a lot of duplicated service between the two. And so what we're doing in the Southeast is we've redesigned all the routes to feed into the Valley Line stations. And then between now and when the Valley Line opens, we have an express shuttle bus that will stop at or very close to the Valley Line stations every 3 or 4 minutes in the peaks, and actually using our longer buses, the big articulated buses, provide a lot of capacity until the day the Valley Line opens.
Okay, and building on Councillor Esslinger's question before, when we have those on-demand bus service routes, they're not fixed routes, are they?
No, they're not fixed routes. They'll go on any roads dynamically depending where people are booking trips, and then they will travel from the neighborhood to the designated hub.
Okay, and then considering that, I mean, again, I guess I am in the same kind of situation where in my southeast area where this area is being newly built or getting built, and there is no bus service. And as far as the demand for service is concerned, shouldn't those areas where the bus service is not there, shouldn't they be prioritized in this on-demand service a bit? Because there's not a single route in Southeast at this point in time.
So for the on-demand service, we looked at all the number of houses currently built out, and if there were sufficient houses in neighborhoods that don't have service to support on-demand. And so we have added council-approved on-demand service for new neighborhoods that we proposed that had sufficient population. And we'll keep an eye on neighborhoods as they build out. Once they have enough population beyond 600 meters from transit, we can explore adding on-demand to those areas. We're not aware of any areas in the southeast that neighborhoods where they have not that they're beyond the 600 meters and would qualify for on-demand.
So there is none in Southeast. So what you're telling me is everything is in, within 600 meter reach?
Yes.
Okay, and my next one is again these dial-a-bus, again whatever you want to call it. Is it considering the places of worship and temples? And I got some in Southeast, and that there are 3 in one place kind of thing. There, and those are getting their bus routes, I guess, rerouted. And there's quite a bit of concern in there between those folks saying that, you know, it's not 1 or 2, it's 3 places of worship that lots of seniors travel to and from. And that area is completely neglected. So what would you say to that? I'm talking about 2nd Avenue and 66th Street area.
Yes, Councillor, I thought that might be the area you're talking about. There are some newer places of worship on 66th Street. And I think what we have with the bus routes, we've tried as much as possible to connect all of those important destinations for communities. There are places of worship, health centers, recreation centers, schools, etc. As new ones are built, that's where the beauty of the bus network changing comes in, and something we can look at and evolve in the future. It may look like on-demand service possibly, or it may look like an adjustment to the route in that Ellerslie area to support those areas. So we will monitor and see how we can serve them in the future.
Thank you. I'll come back. My time.
Councillor Nicol.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Well, Ms. Feldman, I feel bad for you. I honest to goodness feel bad for you, because it's a pretty tough thing you're trying to do right now. And so I feel really bad for you. But my questions go to some of the earlier questions that have been asked about engagement, because there's always a beginning, a middle, and an end to engagement in some of these things. And I think, Ms. Feldman, you would agree with me that 2018 ridership and engagement would not probably be the same as a 2021 engagement and ridership survey, would it?
Certainly ridership right now is very different than it was before the pandemic, but we're very hopeful that we can provide the right network to, bring people back to transit as we come out of the pandemic. And of course, we're going to keep very close eye on our customer surveys and our data, and we'll have to see what transit looks like post-pandemic. But
again, I say this so many times. I want to get you out of trouble, not into trouble. How can we possibly judge the BNR in the present conditions we have right now? And given that the pandemic numbers are something and the economic are something else, and the Valley Line, well, I'm not going to press you on when that one's actually guaranteed to open. I mean, that's a totally different question for Southeast Edmonton, but you heard Councillor Banga ask that. Ms. Feldman, isn't it going to be troublesome if you start measuring now that you're not really going to get reliable data?
I think that's a great point, and I think that's why we want to wait long enough to get good data and not react too quickly to the data we see over the coming 6 months. And we'll look 6 months, we'll then look at the next 6 months and continue to monitor in a very iterative process. But I would say that the transit network we have right now during COVID is also has problems, and it's due to be reset.
It's considerable stress. I think that's the word that I would use. The transit system is under considerable stress. Would you not agree with me?
I might ask Ms. Houghton-McDonald to answer that.
Sure thing. Thanks, Councillor. Yes, I think as an industry, we're all feeling it, but I'm optimistic with all of these different projects that we have underway. It's part of our recovery plan, and across the industry, we're all looking at it from the same lens and applying the same approach to encourage people to come back. And we're also doing detailed research. We have findings that suggest there is a good portion of people that will be returning.
Oh, well, let's be fair. It is an indication. It is not a guarantee, and I'm not asking for a guarantee. I don't think that would be fair of anyone here to ask that question. But I guess I'm left with the concern with the BNR, with its implementation. And I've said this before. Perhaps, we wanted to do it on a smaller scale as opposed to a larger scale, because a small mistake at the beginning is much more easily managed than the big mistake overall. But I guess, so you're saying that roll out the BNR as it presently sits in this condition, this environment, and that the 6 month point, we're going to have a judgment call, a review. And then how much stock can I put in the review, Ms. Feldman? Honestly.
I think it's important that we continue to share information with council and let you know how our big projects are going. And so we'll come back to you with the data and the customer feedback. But our plan would be to wait at least 12 months before we make any more significant adjustments to the network, to allow that time to get enough data, to allow people to settle in, and also for us to see how ridership is recovering from COVID. One thing I would note is that some of the travel patterns we may see post-COVID, like more cross-town connections between suburbs, more people traveling in the off-peak, these are things that are really well supported by the new network. And our current network is very focused on the peak and on commuter service. And I think this new network does set the right path for that.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Feldman.
I'll need a motion for a second round of questions, it looks like.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Banga, seconded by Councillor Nicol. Please vote.
I'm a yes, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, thanks for joining us, Councillor Walters.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
I almost believe you.
Yes, for my vote.
Thank you, Councillor Zadek. Councillor Katarina?
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, and Councillor Paquette?
I'm a yes. Oh, it just popped up.
Thank you. We've got 13 votes.
Display the vote. And that's carried 12-1. Okay, on the second round, Councillor Paquette.
I don't blame Councillor Henderson one bit. So I'm curious. So the 600 meters, is that walking distance or as the crow flies?
That's true walking distance using the road and sidewalk network we have.
Okay, and there will definitely be some outliers to that, just simply based on density of demand.
Yes, a few slightly beyond just difficult little corners in the state.
Yeah, okay. Any that are like extremely out of that range?
Not particularly. There actually is one I would mention in your ward, Councillor, the Quarry Ridge neighborhood, which isn't more of a state residential, and it's just very far, and there's no collector roadways really to serve that area sufficiently. But there are very far-flung areas that we serve.
Yeah, I noticed that area doesn't have on-demand either, so they're kind of not served at all. So just putting a pin in that.
Yeah.
If we can make an adjustment, that would be great. I've spoken extensively to tons of people in our communities, and one thing is that there's a lot of folks that I've talked to who are going to be receiving incredible service now, who really didn't have it before, and then there are some people who are going to be impacted and have to walk a little further, or they're going to have longer times on the bus. So, it's striking that balance. But for the folks who are impacted negatively, with, they have to go and get to like a central hub and then go to their destination. For some of these folks, this is adding a ton of kilometers and time onto their commute. I guess I don't really have a great picture of how many people are impacted in that way versus how many people are impacted more positively. And I'm just wondering if you can shed some light on that.
I think it is difficult to quantify. We did consistently citywide increase the walking distance by that 200 meters. So that would, for an able-bodied person, 400 meters might be 5-minute walking distance. So by increasing up to 600, we're going up to 7.5 or 8-minute walk. But we still have a lot of service and frequency on all of the routes that remain. So when you look at one particular specific trip at a specific time, the travel time may be the similar or maybe slightly increased because of the walk. But then if you look at the whole schedule for that route, you would see that if you miss that bus, there's another one coming sooner. Or you can now travel outside the peak and you can travel on the weekends. There's many neighborhoods that you could only travel in the peak periods before. So it really, I think, takes people to look at more than just one specific plan and look at all the ways they could use transit in the new network. But overall, I think, many areas of the city benefit and some people don't. And it was never, as Councillor Henderson mentioned, never something that was going to make everyone's trip better.
Right. So to the mover, for the folks who are benefiting, because I've got, even in my communities, I've got a lot of people who are benefiting immensely from this change. They might be really disappointed that if we take that away. So I'm just wondering what you would say to them.
Yeah, that's a good point, and that's why that makes it a difficult decision for us here today. I don't think we should be leaving anyone behind in the system, let alone large portions of the population. And we're hearing, some people are going to love it because it's going to service them better. And I just don't think that justifies, though, the types of impacts that we're hearing about now. And the whole motions, I won't chew up your time, but it's all about engagement. And we might have spent a lot of money on engagement, but right now people using the app are realizing that in some cases, they have an hour and a half added to their day in commute. I know you know what I'm talking about, so I won't chew up more of your time, but it's yes, if we change this soon, people will be upset with that as well. But if we don't change it, I think there'll be more people upset.
6 one, half a dozen the other. Okay. So, all right. Yeah, I don't know when to make it, but I put a possible motion in the chat that might answer some of this. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is Councillor McKean still on the first round?
Yes, he is.
He may go ahead then.
Thank you. I wasn't sure I was going to dive into this, but it feels like deja vu over and over and over and over again. But the pandemic raises interesting questions that we were not dealing with as we discussed this on multiple occasions in the past. Is there anything about the pandemic that should give us pause about a major change to our bus network? One of the things I was thinking is the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. So coming out of the pandemic, would we see that the pandemic has somehow changed people's behavior in such a way that would cause us to have to seriously rethink the bus network redesign? Ms. Feldman?
Yes, Councillor, I don't think so. I think we know the things that are levers of ridership, which we've shared with council in the past, which are increased frequency of service, offering more service in different times of day. And that's what we're doing with the new bus network. And as I mentioned, one thing we may see post-pandemic, if more people are working from home, is there may be more people traveling on transit outside of the traditional peaks and not necessarily traveling to the core. And so we do have a lot more of that in the new network with more service in the weekends. For example, Sunday service, I think, is up almost 20% from current. And also people traveling between the hubs in the outer area rather than going through the core. And the new network with all the cross-town routes really supports that. So of course, we're going to monitor what ridership looks like post-pandemic and adjust the bus network in the future, but we would be doing that with the current network as well.
Yeah, because it almost sounds like we're making cuts here, but there are certain trade-offs being made for efficiency, for being able to have more frequency on routes, because we had some routes where they were buses were having to pass by people at the bus stop, etc., and other routes where there was one person on the bus as it trundled through a neighborhood. So we're trying to get efficiency into the system and be more attractive for anybody who just missed their bus, knowing that another one is coming along a little quicker. I'm probably oversimplifying a bit there, but these are the sort of high-level goals, yes, to bring efficiency, more frequency to routes. Maybe some people, yes, some people will have to walk further, but they'll know once they get there that there's another bus coming shortly, yes?
Yes. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask the mover. My office has had to deal with a lot of questions. People are naturally concerned about change and how that'll impact them. I don't have a number in front of me of the number of people that have reached out, but we've been dealing with each and every one of those and hooking them up to our transit folks. Were you getting, can you say how many calls or emails or that led to this motion?
For sure. And if you're getting calls and you're in an area of the city that's mostly benefiting from this, that's telling in a way.
Councillor Zadek, that's not fair. There's a lot of seniors in Oliver who would say they're not benefiting, but we're answering their questions about the on-demand system. I don't think you can make generalities about one area benefiting and another one not. But back to my question, what prompted this?
Feedback from constituents, lots of feedback. Of course, there was no letter writing campaign or form letters that we've had on other issues, but the amount of legitimate and genuine concerns to my office has been quite substantial.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Knack.
Thanks again, Mr. Mayor. And a few more questions, recognizing that until we have the challenge is until we have the budget conversation about actually improving or adding more service. That's one of the biggest barriers. We also need to build a new bus garage if we want to add some more buses. So there's some pretty massive foundational costs that if we really want to do more for everyone, we've got to tackle. But those conversations aren't where are those conversations, I guess, more generally right now?
Councillor, specifically regarding growth in the future, and as you have mentioned.
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Sorry. We have 2 reports coming on May 11th to committee that are regarding the mass transit network for the first phase of implementation of the city plan that's coming from City Planning Branch. And as well, there'll be a report that day on growth of our garage space to support growth of the transit network in the future. So it's certainly something we've been working on as well to look towards what comes next with the network.
Yeah, because I absolutely think we have more work to do on that. We need, I'd like to finally see us, develop a proper bus rapid transit plan, which I'm working on a motion, but not for today, for another day related to that. But that will help to start to provide some of this. So I want to just focus a little bit remaining on the on-demand, which is from what I've seen, because we've had some conversations, you've been able to make even some small adjustments within the existing budget, particularly to the on-demand, to help address some concerns, correct?
Yes, and so even though it's a 2-year pilot, the pilot period is to evaluate the service delivery model. But in that pilot period, within the 2 years, within the budget allocation we have, if we can make adjustments to better serve areas or serve additional areas, we will do that, and we'll keep our eye on abilities to improve over that 2-year period.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify that last statement, because that was the thing. I keep hearing on-demand's a pilot. It's the actual service itself isn't a pilot. How we deliver it is what we're piloting. Right now, we're running it from a different company, might be done internally later on. But the fact that that service exists was actually not moved as a pilot by council back in the day. Correct?
We do correct. Well, we do have one-time funding for the 2-year period, so making it permanent would require funding to be allocated. But I think the main piece that we were piloting is the delivery model.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're all clear on that, because that was definitely the motion that was made. I remember that one, so helpful on that. The last question, because I appreciate Councillor Zadok's trying to help address concerns in his area. There's still some gaps in my neck of the woods here. There was a change at that very last draft along the Valley Line West LRT route, where we're now not going to run a bus while construction's underway. That was a pretty substantial change in this area. As someone who lives on that construction line, that was a big change to see. So is there anything besides funding from stopping us to add more of the on-demand service? So what's the total cost right now for on-demand? What are we paying again?
I think it's around $10 million for each year for the service. And I would say the funding, and then giving enough time to procure the vehicle and train the operator.
Yeah. So if we wanted to, we could add, if there were still a few gaps that members of council wanted to address, we don't have to wait 2 years. We could make a budget request right away, or we can make it and future council can make it during the next budget deliberations. And outside of acquiring some additional vehicles and getting drivers, we could increase that, as soon as possible.
Yes, I think we could. I think we'd want to understand the parameters around what areas qualify, so that we're being fair and consistent throughout the city. But I think, yes, we could.
Yeah. And you do have some insight already as to maybe where's next on the list. Like you say, from how I understand it, you developed and created a certain household threshold that you're looking for. If council wanted to bring that threshold down by increasing the money, you would know who's next in line for that. Generally.
Yes, we would take another look if we knew that.
Okay. Or if we wanted to add, sort of expand on an existing line that's running and maybe be able to feed a vehicle to a slightly different area. That's all things that could happen. You have some general analysis that day. Okay. All right. I think I'm pretty much out of time. So that's probably it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Banga?
Thank you. Ms. Feldman, you mentioned it's a 2-year pilot project. What does that exactly mean? What happens after 2 years?
Yes, so when council approved the service and then the budget adjustment last spring, it was for a 2-year pilot, and that we committed to coming back with a full evaluation of how that performs, particularly on the delivery model, which is using a contracted service rather than it being provided by city operations directly. So we would provide that full evaluation, both in terms of how it's performing, in terms of ridership, but also customer feedback. And we'll need to do that partway through the 2-year period, so that if we do make a change, where we have all the pieces in place after the 2 years are concluded.
Okay. So you said BNR is going to be, I guess, constantly reevaluated. But you want to see at least a year to see if something is working or not working. Would that be correct?
Yes, I think we need enough data to know how customers have adjusted. And also with ETS, as you may know, we've started to have an annual service plan every year. This is similar to other transit agencies across North America. And what we'll be doing going forward in that annual service plan is providing council with all the data on how our routes are performing, and then really outlining the adjustments we make on an annual basis to respond.
Okay. And what would be the mechanism for reevaluation? Let's say if folks in an area, they all, I guess, start getting petitions and signatures and whatnot, would that be a trigger point, or what else is it?
So absolutely, customer feedback is really important. It can come in a variety of forms. It could be, like you say, petitions. It can also just be individuals through inquiries sharing with us ideas. And I'll always say it doesn't need to be, it's not by majority. If we hear a good idea from one or a few customers, we'll adjust if it meets the principles, and we can do it within our resources. But I would add that we have in our service standards that we brought to council when the bus network was approved, there are service productivity and service quality measures which we'll use to quantify the performance of the network, in addition to the more qualitative results we get from public feedback.
Okay. So I know the criteria are 600 meters, and then the population dictates if any area is going to be served or not, or to what, I guess, degree. Was there ever any consideration paid to how long a trip is going to be taking from I guess one particular neighborhood to the nearest hub? I'm talking about Maple Ridge Trailer Park, or mobile home park, I should say. And there have been quite a few concerns originating from there that they have to travel long distances, and the times again is enormous amount of time being added to their trips.
I think we don't have a standard around the exact travel time. It is a challenging piece to measure, but something we understand once we implement the network and we can see all of the different permutations of where people are going to and from. And like Councillor Knack said, the smart fare data will also help us understand that more. But we did, I think, and if you want some specific information on Maple Ridge, I would be happy to share that. But we did try with all the areas we've served to continue to provide them with good service within that 600-meter walking distance. I'm not sure, Councillor, if that addresses your question.
No, it does. And then my last question is actually to the mover. What are we hoping to achieve from this motion of yours?
Yeah, good question. So we heard that there's been a lot of engagement, but now that the app is out, we're realizing that people's commute times are going to be longer than they were first promised. So that was the basis of the past engagement. There's a lot of folks that are going to be left out. So I just think there's an opportunity for us to get this right, and there's no rush. Yeah, it's a shame that there's signs up. I'm running out your time, sorry. I would just say that I hope that we can get this right and not rush it.
Thank you. My time is up.
Thank you. Any other questions? Anyone wishing to speak? Can't see anybody on the board. Councillor Knack, are you trying to get on? Okay, go ahead.
Yes, sorry, I don't know what's happening there. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, and I very much appreciate why Councillor Zadick brought this forward, and appreciate that we were able to have this discussion. I actually do think it's important. You know, I know it might not have been easy. You might have been a little worried about how this is going to go, but I think it was an important conversation. My struggle has always been, and some of what we've already touched on here is, what's the right way to help address gaps? Because as we heard today, and it's the same thing here in this ward, is that there are communities that are getting bus service for the first time that are ecstatic. I have communities that only used to have peak hour service Monday to Friday. They're getting 7 days a week bus service. We've got some seniors residences that had Monday to Friday service that now get 7 day a week service. And those are all awesome additions to the system. Likewise, though, we have a couple of communities, including where I live, that are actually seeing less service. Not having a bus on the LRT route, while I understand the logic of not wanting to have it on a construction route, that actually was a change that came after the first draft, and that caught a lot of us off guard, if I'm going to be honest. And so I think the right approach is not to delay this whole thing from going forward. It's to let's work on those additional pieces. Let's actually have a real conversation about increasing the funding to our transit system, considering what we spend in the city of Edmonton compared to similar size cities like Ottawa. It's a huge gap. It's time to maybe start working on that. Things like the on-demand service. I think there's plenty of opportunity if there's spots in the rest of the city that we need to fill in the gaps. Let's have that budget conversation and put in that funding to make sure folks can better access the service if there are some spaces where things aren't going to work. I just want to say I really appreciate the work that administration has done. Ms. Feldman, in particular, has helped on a lot of different things that we flagged even in the last couple of months since that final piece came out, people to start doing trip planning. There's been a few changes to the on-demand service in the area here with the existing routes within the approved budgets that have actually helped fill in a couple of gaps that were identified, which is just so good to see that responsiveness. And so I know the one biggest issue I still have is there's a number of students in one particular community who have a bit more of a convoluted route to get to the schools that they want to access. And even that, we're working on it. We've been gathering data. We've been talking with the community and the community residents around how many people are using it. So I think the right approach is to keep working on that. We've got some very talented folks here who are willing to and committed to working through the issues. But to stop it now means I have to go back to all those other communities that are going to see better service and say, just kidding. That service you've been waiting for years, it's no more. And I don't think that's right either. And so I appreciate that there's a challenge here that the mover is trying to address. I just think this motion is not the right way to address it. I would have much rather seen a motion today that says, hey, I want to increase the budget by X amount of dollars to be distributed to this service. And I think that's a really valid conversation for us to be having. I think that's a conversation that would help allow us to actually deal with what we need to versus stopping the work today. So recognizing that no change of this scale, considering no increase of budget was going to be perfect for everyone, I think we've spent a lot of time and effort getting to where we are today. There's been adjustments. There will continue to be adjustments. And I would encourage each of us to work with the teams that are helping to roll this out to address those gaps. And then let's have a funding conversation. It's long overdue. And I think that's what Councillor Paquette's subsequent motion even talks about if we're able to have that conversation. I think that's a very valid one. So I can't support this, recognizing that you are trying to speak up for some residents who are also dealing with some challenges. I think there's better ways for us to help fill those gaps. And so I can't support this, but I'd love to try and help and vote on a different motion that lets us work on the issues in your area and the issues in any other part of the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Essinger.
Thank you very much. And I really appreciate that this has been a principle discussion, that these routes were determined on principle. And for many of my residents, there's not a lot of change. For some, for the very first time, I have a senior that's going to be able to take the bus to church. She's thrilled. I think we've enabled some people to have access that haven't had access. I think we have a school system that allows students to go to any school they desire, and that's created a few challenges for some parents when they've selected beyond their communities. And I was pleased to hear that we are working with the Public and Catholic Board to support them through this process as they work with students, because they have no other choice in many circumstances. I think one of the things that I've contemplated, and it's been said that the North has poor service. Well, when I look at the map, some of the North is getting service they haven't had before. There is challenges, but I think sometimes it's a misconception. I had a lady that was quite upset by the process, and her bus, she was only could do it during peak hours. But when they explained to her that now she could go off peak hours as well, she hadn't understood that. And all of a sudden, it was a different feeling for her. So I think many of the riders are going to need to try it and see there might be more options than they've never ever had before. I think the key here is to really figure out where those challenges are and begin to address them. And that might be a funding conversation. But at the end of the day, we are committed to giving equitable service to everyone. And I think as that's a principle as we move forward, there will be some areas of change. I was pleased to hear that the comment earlier about there's been 20% change based on input already. And I thought, I know that I have brought some areas of concern that I had felt, and they were able to adjust. And I think we've addressed many of them. If there's a few areas that we haven't, we're going to have to work on that. I don't think there's going to be a perfect time. I think there'll always be challenges when you make a wholesale system change. So delaying it at this point, I don't see the benefit. Knowing that there's actually less riders on it right now seems a appropriate time to begin to make this change. As I said, my concern has been the students that will be impacted, but knowing we're going to work with them through that, it allows me some confidence. So I am not able to support this motion at this time because I feel like we need to move forward with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Henderson?
I'm not entirely surprised that we're sitting here at beyond the 11th hour having this debate. This is something we've been trying to do for decades because it was time to overhaul this system, and it was never going to be an easy thing to do. It was always going to be a scary thing to do, and it was always going to be a disruptive thing to do. And that's, I think, why it's taken so long to do it. Our public engagement process on this was beyond thorough, and it was inevitable, and I've always known this day was coming. It was inevitable that the easy part of that work was going to be at the beginning, because when it's theoretical, everybody can agree. But there were always going to be situations where the greater benefit of the many was unfortunately going to create some down for the few. And if we let that paralyze us, then we will continue to go forward with a hybrid system that is being cobbled together based on something that was developed for a very different city. So it is not entirely surprising that as people are trying the app, people that thought this was a great idea are now understanding, for those people that it's going to make it worse, that there are consequences. And I wish I could sit here, I wish we could all sit here and say, we can make this perfect for everybody. But this kind of change was going to advantage, hopefully, the majority of the city, but was going to disadvantage some. And it's not surprising that as the app rolls out, people that thought this was a good idea are suddenly going, oh, I'm not one of the ones that are going to benefit from this. I don't know how to make that better, except to do something that I've always been calling for, which is to put substantially more resources into the system, and that is still an option that's available to us. And I would love to see that happen. But pulling back at this point, 10 days before this opens, I cannot imagine the chaos it would create. I cannot imagine the cost that would be involved. And quite frankly, I'd much prefer to use that cost getting more buses and more bus routes and more drivers. It's a kind of nonsense. I very rarely vote against the second round, but I really have trouble with the fact we're even debating this 10 days before the rollout, because I just don't think that's responsible in any stretch of the imagination. I think we need to get this out there, and then I think we need to see how it works, and then we need to start building our system and adapting our system based on much better bones than what we've been trying to do with Band-Aids in the past. And that's what this will give us the chance to do. Is it set in stone? No. We're going to have to continue to adjust and adapt to see how this new system actually serves our city. But it'll be serving the city we have now and not the city that we had 30 years ago. And that's what we'll be basing it on. And absolutely, I'm always been in favor of putting more money into the system. And if there's support for council on that, hallelujah, because a number of us have been fighting for that for years. So I will not be supporting this. I think it would be remarkably irresponsible for us to do this at this point. And I think we need to get on with it, and we need to help people through it, and we need to be supportive of the people that may struggle with it and try and find ways to help them. But I think ultimately, we are all sent here to do the best for the city as a whole. And I think that's what this is attempting to do. And I have every belief after 3-4 years of working to get us to this point that what's being put in front of us will create that better system that we can then build on and make even better. So I'm concerned that we're even debating this today, but I'm hoping it gets defeated.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Councillor Banga?
Thank you. Again, I don't know, I'm probably pretty conflicted on this thing. And I don't know exactly where I am going to go with this. At this point in time, one thing I know for sure that we have spent a lot of time and effort to get to this point. Right now, is it perfect? Of course it is not. Can it be perfect? I don't believe so either. But I do have the assurance from administration that there is room for, I guess, evolution on a case-by-case basis. Unfortunate thing is, it's probably going to take at least a year. But that, again, is unfortunate, and I don't know. What could I say to some of those folks who are going to be losing service? Of course, there are people going to be happy who are getting more service or getting service for the first time. But people who are losing service, they're never going to be happy. It doesn't matter what we do. But again, the issue is if this motion was before me 6 to 8 months ago, I would have wholeheartedly supported it. But right now, we got everything in place for this mechanism, BNR, to work. And at this point in time, if we pull it back, there will be enormous loss of public confidence in what we do, and also uncertainty among the riders, and users, etc. So I'm hesitant, but I'm going to not support this motion at this time. I wish that this would have came to us in probably sometime late last year, but it is before us today, and I'm not going to be able to support this. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Banga. Councillor Cartmel, if you could take the chair.
I have the chair.
So what Councillor Banga said about the disruption effect, what Councillor Knack said about the citywide context, what Councillor Esslinger said about follow-through and public engagement and everyone we listened to, and 1,000 times what Councillor Henderson said about how we got to this point. And that, of course, there was going to be pain in a transition like this. But especially what he said, and arising a little bit from a tense discussion this morning about transit at committee, I have wanted to see significant investment and improvement in our whole transit system and our whole transportation network. And a lot of emphasis has been on building out the LRT as the backbone of that, but I have firmly believed for a very long time that to get the most out of that investment, we needed to reorganize the bus routes. And in order to align with the nodes and corridors strategy of the city plan, we needed to reorganize the bus routes. And even if we weren't doing those things, we had a system that I remember was very controversial when it came in a generation ago. It's very similar pushback from folks who felt like they would be left behind by the change. And we went to a hub and spoke system at that time that worked for a city of 600,000 people without a ring road and with half an LRT line. That city doesn't exist anymore. And it's definitely not the city we're trying to build right now, which is why we have leaned into this up to this point, knowing that this change needed to be made. And this council has taken a fair bit of criticism for not increasing funding to transit, even as ridership has declined. But I think the ridership has declined because the service isn't up to what people need. It's overcrowded in the densest areas of the city and closest to the employment nodes. It's unreliable in other parts of the city in terms of timeliness. And frankly, it either takes too long for most people to bother with it right now, or the connections are too unreliable for people to choose it unless they have no other choice. So before we can invest the next 10 or 100 million into one of our most important public services, we needed to change its DNA to be able to handle that investment and get leverage from it, rather than put good money after bad in an inefficient network that serves some people really well today who are going to feel the pain of the change. But council was never going to put another 10 or 100 million dollars into something that isn't working for taxpayers or for riders the way we need it to. So this fundamental overhaul I've felt is required since the day I got here 14 years ago. As a matter of fact, when I got a microphone shoved in my face after I won the election in 2007, the reporter said, "What's the first thing you want to do?" And I said, "I want to overhaul the bus network." 14 years later, there is no going back. And it's the right thing to do, and council has supported it consistently, not universally, and that's a fair debate, and I understand that there are different perspectives on this. But it's time to hop on this bus, because it's leaving the station next week for all the right reasons, after the most robust public engagement and one of the more thorough longitudinal debates I have ever seen here. So I too do not think this should have come before us, but I would rather have had this conversation than not, and I will not be able to support the motion today. Very happy to have a follow-up investigation, and we'll look at those motions on the merits after. So I'm out of time. I'll take the chair back.
Turn the chair.
And go to, if there's nobody else, I will go to Councillor Zadek to close.
Well, thank you, and good discussion. I think no matter how you vote today, it's been worth our time. The motion is actually intended to get more funding, ironically, so there's some suggestions and talk around funding. The motion would be asking the users of transit most left out by these proposed changes what they need in order to add service. So it's unfortunate how it was perhaps a bit mischaracterized at points, but I want more bus service. Busing is a core municipal service. and I think we should do it right. The conversation has been mostly respectful, and I appreciate that. I think I was able to bring to light the main issue of what we were debating, and it's that the engagement promised one thing, and yes, it was thorough, but the reality now is going to be something different, and we know that with the app. So I don't think it's too late to turn back, to pause this, to get it right. We heard that we're not going to get any meaningful data for 6 months because of the pandemic. More reason to delay. We heard that it's going to take over a year to make minor changes to service. I guess we could shave off 6 months of that if we waited until the pandemic was over. So it's all about what's the rush. And Councillor Knack points out that it could be a budget conversation. Again, I'm intending to get more resources for transit. But it seems somewhat unfair that part of the city or councillors representing areas with less service would have to ask and use political capital to go forward to get funding that's adequate for the whole city, and other councillors in other parts of the city were gifted a decent system. So it's just the onus being on me or whoever else asked for more funding seems a little bit unfair when we should just get this right from the beginning. We talked about, oh yeah, people will be left out of the system. Well, what are we going to do about it? On April 26th, the day after, when people have missed a lot of buses, sure, okay, on the 27th, they figure out that there is no bus coming. Well, but ultimately, what do they do? The question about why now? Well, it's because the on-demand routes were only recently revealed to the public. I think we were all thinking that they would be much different than they are. We heard a lot about, we've been waiting 20 years for this, with the implication that if we pause this now, and I'm saying pause, that it will take 20 more years till we have something. This doesn't have to take another 20 years. This could be done 6 months, 3 months, whatever, whatever's required to make sure that we have this right. I've talked to a lot of real people that are affected by this. One example is a person whose commute right now is 30 minutes is now going to be an hour and a half. And she's going to look at getting a different job because it's not tenable for her to make that commute. We're in the middle of a school year. The pandemic is causing a lot of change. We're waiting for the LRT build out, which will be open soon. A lot of these bus network assumptions are based on different realities. What's the harm in pausing to get this right? And again, I'll end with what I started with. This could be a pathway to more resources. We don't engage for no reason. Now that people know exactly what the proposed and soon to be implemented, unless we pause it here, routes are, now that there's new data, new information, it's like a public hearing, we ask for new information. Okay, we have substantially new information right now. Minds can be changed. I think this is really important that we do this right. And I'm happy, I'll go on the record, I'd support 10 million plus for busing. Whatever it takes to have an adequate service. So yeah, there's a bunch of bus signs up that say your route's closing right now. We shut down the whole city for the pandemic in short order. Our mask bylaw came out with 2 days notice to the public. I don't think these challenges are beyond us. I think we have an opportunity to do this right. And I'm asking for everyone's support on this. That's all.
Thank you. Please vote.
I'm a no, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor.
Madam Clerk.
Yes, thank you very much.
No, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have all the votes.
Thank you. Display the vote, please. That is failed 2-11.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
Sorry.
Councillor McKean?
I'm sorry, on a point of privilege, I have another meeting I have to run off to, so I will not be doing my notice of motion today. With apology.
Understood. Understood. Councillor McKean. We could take notices right now.
I do have one, Mr. Mayor, when the time's right.
I think we lost Councillor McKean though, so. And I think, Councillor Paquette, we could take your motion as notice, is the other way to deal with this too, because it's hard to do a subsequent to what we've just, after what we've just chosen not to do. So, why don't I go to you first? I'll call for notices. I'll go to Councillor Paquette, and then I'll go to Councillor Walters.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So at the next City Council meeting, I will move that administration provide a report to committee following a review of the implementation of the bus network redesign. Let me just pull this up. I lost my place because there was a little bit of an edit. Okay. That administration provide a report to committee following a review of the implementation of the bus network redesign, including an accelerated interim review of successes and shortfalls with routes, timing, and frequency. B, a high-level strategy for more routes during the rollout where need and demand are indicated. And 2, the administration provide a report to committee with recommendations outlining a predictable, sustainable funding formula that sees incremental but impactful increases to the transit system going forward, and an outline of current capacity for service growth. And I'm not sure if I need to put a due date on a notice, but I can if that's necessary.
We can, not yet, because the different parts of it may have some different advice. So let's give admin some time to think about that, and then we can fill that in when we get to it. So notice is received. Thank you, Councillor Paquette. Councillor Walters, then Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the next regular City Council or meeting of next regular meeting of City Council, I move that the Mayor, on behalf of City Council, write a letter to the Alberta Minister of Environment and Parks supporting the initiative being led by Smoky Lake County in collaboration with other river municipalities and Indigenous groups to nominate 818 kilometers of the North Saskatchewan River across Alberta as a heritage river under the Canadian Heritage River System. Thank you.
Thank you. Notice is received. And Councillor Hamilton?
All right. At the next regular City Council meeting, I will move that Council remove the traffic control device at 188th Street and 69th Avenue that was approved by Council at the March 23rd, 2016 Transportation Committee meeting in opposition to administration's recommendations.
Okay, that might be a take back jurisdiction. I'm not sure. Well, the thrust of it is understood, and the form of it may evolve, but notice is received. Councillor Hamilton, thank you. Any other notices? Going once, going twice, then let's quit while we're ahead. This meeting, which started last week, is now over. Yes, April 6th is now finished. You can now carry on with your April 13th.
And just to confirm that 6-4 is done?
Did we, oh, good Lord, no, we didn't do anything with 6-4. What do you want to do? Receive it for information, or?
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Henderson will move receipt of information on 6-4.
So you directed it back to admin, could you?
Lift it from the table?
Could you lift it from the table, please?
I will untable it.
Okay, I'll second the untabling. Is there unanimous consent to lift that from the table? And then with the supplemental information in the memo that was emailed to us, with that, Councillor Henderson, would you move receipt of information?
I'm prepared to move receipt of, well, not support of the information, but receipt of the information, which is no offense to administration.
Receipt does not condone.
Yeah.
Understood.
I still think there's an inherent nonsense in here, but I think it will never be critical. So it may be critical in smaller communities, but it won't necessarily be critical in a city this size. So
400,000 signatures.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Cartmel. Please vote.
Yes.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Display the vote.
Just
Yes.
missing a couple,
Once
but
you,
okay.
once you have them all, sorry.
Yeah,
Eager to have my life back.
we now have all the votes.
Display the vote. Carried. Okay, is there anything else, Madam Clerk? Then we are adjourned. Thank you all for your patience and perseverance.